This happened to me 3 years ago, and until today, I still can't say the story out loud without my voice shaking. I used to live in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. My street was peaceful. Kids riding bikes, old couples walking dogs, the kind of place you'd never expect anything bad to happen. But across the road from my house was a small, gray 2-story home that everyone called the empty house. No one lived there. No cars, no mail, no lights, nothing. It had been abandoned for years. Or at least, that's what everybody thought. I need you to understand something before I continue. At this time in my life, I was recovering from losing my mom. She passed suddenly, and I was stuck in this heavy fog of grief. Some nights I would sit awake until 3 a.m., just staring at my phone, wishing she would call again. I say this because maybe grief makes you sensitive to things you are not supposed to notice. It was early September. I remember because the nights were just starting to get cool again. Around 1 a.m., I was doing dishes when something made me glance through the window toward the empty house. And there was a light on inside. Not bright, not warm, just a faint, sick-looking glow coming from an upstairs window. At first, I thought I imagined it. So I wiped the glass, leaned closer, and the light flickered. Almost like someone holding a candle and walking past. I froze. For the first time ever, something was happening inside that house. The next day, I didn't mention it to anyone. I just kept glancing at the house every few minutes, waiting, expecting something. Nothing happened during the day, but that night, the light came back. Then it moved, slowly, from one window to the next, almost pacing, almost like someone watching the street. I felt a cold, crawling fear inside me, but I kept telling myself, it's probably just someone squatting there, calm down. I tried to sleep. Around 3:17 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing, a single notification, from an unknown number. It said, "Why are you awake?" I stared at it, confused, tired, annoyed. I blocked the number and went back to bed. But something made me get up and look outside. The upstairs light in the empty house was on again. Only this time, a shadow was standing in front of the window. A tall silhouette, still, facing my direction, just standing there. I dropped behind the curtain so fast I almost tore it. For the next week, things got worse. Every night around the same time, the light appeared. And every night, the shadow was there, standing, watching, not moving. And then the sounds began. At first it was soft tapping, like someone drumming their fingers on glass. Then scratching, slow, methodical. Then the screaming. Not loud screaming, not human screaming. It sounded muffled, as if someone was screaming through fabric, or from inside a wall. Always between 2:40 and 3:30 a.m. I asked my neighbors if they noticed anything unusual. They looked at me like I was the strange one. No one saw lights, no one heard screams, no one got weird texts. Someone actually laughed and said, "Maybe you miss your mom too much." Grief plays tricks. That made me angry, and embarrassed, and scared. Because if I was the only one who could see or hear it, what did that mean? I will never forget the night of September 19th. Around 2:58 a.m., I woke up gasping, like someone had been whispering in my ear. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number. This time, the message said, "I can see you." I felt ice slide through my chest. Hands shaking, I opened my curtains just a little, just enough to peek. The house across the road was completely dark, but the shadow, the tall figure, was standing outside now. On the front lawn, facing my house, facing me, still, unmoving. I couldn't see its face, but I knew. It was staring directly into my window. I closed the curtain so fast I nearly ripped it off. My breathing turned shallow. My heart was racing. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? Wake a neighbor? Hide? I grabbed my phone with trembling hands, and then it vibrated again. A picture, a photo, taken from outside my house, of me, standing at my upstairs window, peeking out. My knees buckled. I fell to the floor. I started crying, not from pain, but from a fear I've never felt in my life, a fear of being hunted. While I was still on the floor, I heard it. Slow footsteps, crossing the street, coming toward my house. One step, then another. Boots on pavement. I covered my mouth with both hands to keep from screaming. The footsteps reached my driveway, then the walkway, then the front porch. Then 3 soft knocks. Not aggressive, not loud, just gentle, as if someone was trying to be polite. I didn't move. I couldn't breathe. After a few seconds, the knocks stopped. I heard nothing. Not footsteps leaving. Not a voice. Nothing. Just silence. A deadly, heavy silence. I stayed on the floor until sunrise. When I finally got up the courage to check, no one was there. But on my front door, someone had carved a message into the wood, deeply, ragged, desperate. It said, "Let me in." I showed everything to the police. The messages, the photo, the scratches on my door, the times, the sightings. They took it seriously. At first, they checked the house across the street. Empty. No furniture, no electricity, no footprints, no signs anyone had been there in years. The officer came back shaking his head. "You sure you didn't make the carving yourself? Because there's no evidence anyone crossed that lawn last night. No tracks? No nothing." I told him I wasn't lying. He didn't argue. But he gave me that look. The one people give you when they think you're breaking down. He suggested grief counseling, suggested more sleep, suggested I stay with family if I felt unsafe. I didn't bother trying to convince him further. I made arrangements to stay with my aunt. My dad was picking me up the next day. That night was supposed to be my last night in that house. I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with all the lights on, hugging my knees, waiting for the sun. Around 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. One message, from my mom's old number. I knew it couldn't be her. The number was disconnected the day she died. But the message said, "Sweetheart, let him in." My blood went cold. I looked toward the window, and slowly, very slowly, the curtains began to move from the inside, like a hand was sliding across the fabric. I bolted out of the house, barefoot, running into the street, screaming for help. A neighbor came out, confused and half asleep. I was crying so hard I couldn't speak, but when they looked at my house, the curtains were still. The lights were normal. Nothing was out of place. I stayed with my aunt for almost a year. 2 months after I moved out, the city officially condemned the house across the street. They decided to tear it down. But before demolition, they inspected the interior and found something in the upstairs wall. A small cavity, a hidden space. Inside it was a pair of old, muddy boots, a phone with no SIM card, deep scratch marks on the inner wood, and a note scribbled in messy handwriting on a torn piece of wallpaper. "I watched you for years." The inspector said the handwriting looked off, like the letters were written by someone who didn't understand how letters worked, but tried to copy them. To this day, they don't know who lived in that wall, or how long he stayed there, or how he watched me, or how he knew so much about me, or why I was the only one who ever saw him. They tore the house down completely. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm home alone, my phone will buzz. One message, no number. It always says the same thing. Why did you leave? I still don't know if he's dead, or if he ever left the wall, or if he found a new place to hide. But I know this. He's not in the house across the road anymore, and he knows where I live now. The part I can't explain. Before I begin, I need to tell you something. I lost 9 hours of my life. Gone, erased, like someone dragged a thick black marker across part of my memory. I'm about to tell you everything that happened before and after those 9 hours. But the middle, the part that scares me the most, is gone. And what the police showed me later, what they found on the roadside security camera, what they said I was doing during those 9 hours, I still can't accept it. This happened in 2021 when I was living in Spokane, Washington. I was 25, working at a hospital, barely surviving on night shifts and cheap ramen. I had anxiety, insomnia, and guilt I didn't know how to deal with. This matters, because when your mind is tired, certain things can slip in easier. The night everything happened was October 11th. I remember standing in my small apartment staring at a text message from my older brother Ethan. He wrote, "We need to talk. Call me." We hadn't spoken in months. Not since our argument about our dad's estate. It wasn't even about the money. It was about the anger and hurt we were both pretending we didn't feel. Seeing his message made my stomach twist. It felt urgent, wrong, heavy, like I needed to call him right then. But for some reason, I didn't. I grabbed my keys instead and decided to drive. That's the part I can't explain. I wasn't going anywhere. I just felt pulled. And I still wish to God I stayed home. I left at 11:47 p.m. Spokane was cold that night, really cold. The kind of cold that makes the air feel sharp when you breathe. I drove down Route 395, heading north, even though I had no destination. Just driving. I remember passing the last gas station near Deer Park. I remember the dark stretch of road that followed. No street lights, no traffic, nothing but pines and asphalt. And I remember the moment everything changed. Out of nowhere, a man stepped into the road. Right in front of my car, I slammed the brakes so hard my seatbelt cut into my shoulder. The tires screeched. My car fishtailed. I screamed. When the car finally stopped, my heart was hammering so violently I thought I was having a heart attack. I blinked hard, trying to see him. He was standing just a few feet in front of my headlights. A tall man, thin, wearing a dirty hoodie. His head tilted slightly, like he was listening to something. I couldn't see his face. The hood covered everything except his mouth. And he was smiling, a wide, dry smile, like the skin on his cheeks was stretched too tight. He took one slow step toward my car, then another. I fumbled for the gear shift, trying to reverse, but my engine instantly died, just cut off. Like someone unplugged it, my breathing turned into shaking gasps. He kept walking, one slow step after another, until he was right in front of my hood. Then he leaned down, and he whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but I saw the shape of his mouth move. I remember whispering, "Please go. Please go." Please go." He straightened up, and then everything went black. Not fainting, not sleeping, just gone, like someone hit a switch inside my skull. I woke up on the side of the road at 8:52 a.m. Morning sunlight was hitting my face. My car was parked perfectly. Engine off, driver door closed, and I was sitting in the passenger seat. I had dirt under my fingernails. My clothes were wet. My throat was sore, and my arms were shaking so violently I couldn't grip my phone. 9 hours had passed. 9 hours I have absolutely no memory of. I checked my phone. There were 6 missed calls from Ethan, 2 voicemails, and 1 text message that froze my blood. "What's happening? Why did you call me like that?" I hadn't called him. I know I didn't call him. But according to my phone log, I called him at 3:14 a.m., and the call lasted 18 minutes. I don't remember any of it, not 1 second. With shaking hands, I played the first voicemail. It was mostly static, then a faint rustling sound, like fabric brushing against a microphone. Then very faintly my own voice. "He's making me, don't let him in." I dropped the phone. Hard. My stomach twisted, and I thought I was going to throw up. I forced myself to listen to the second voicemail. It was worse. A lot worse. It was me. Crying, breathing hard, gasping like someone was holding my throat, and then, in a broken whisper, "It's not a man." Then a sound I can't describe. Wet, slithering, clicking, wrong. And then the call ended. I sat there shaking, crying, feeling like the world had gone sideways. I wanted to call Ethan right then. I wanted to apologize. I wanted to explain everything. But I couldn't feel my hands. They were numb, cold. And when I finally looked into the rearview mirror, I realized why. There were finger-shaped bruises around my neck. Fresh ones. Deep ones. As if someone had grabbed me. Hard. I called the police later that day. I tried to explain. I tried to stay calm. I tried not to sound insane. They took my car in for forensic inspection, checked my phone, interviewed Ethan. When the officer returned with the report, his face was strange, confused, concerned, uncomfortable. He sat down across from me and said, "There's something you need to see." He showed me footage from a roadside wildlife camera. At 1:02 a.m., they saw my car on the side of the highway, but I wasn't inside it. I was walking, back and forth, pacing along the tree line, alone, for 7 hours. But it wasn't the pacing that terrified me. It was the way I was moving. I wasn't walking like a normal person. My arms were hanging weird. My head was twitching. And every minute or so, I would stop, like I was listening to something standing right next to me. Except there was no one in the footage. Just me and the trees. The officer paused the video. He pointed at one frame, a single blurry still image. He said, "I shouldn't show you this, but you're not facing the camera here." I squinted. He was right. My body was facing the trees, but my head, only my head, was twisted completely around, staring at the camera, directly at it. My mouth open, smiling. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't blink. I couldn't think. The officer said, "We don't know how you physically did this. No human can twist." He stopped talking. I think he saw how pale I was. I left the station shaking uncontrollably. I didn't go home. I drove to my brother's house in tears. He hugged me even though we hadn't spoken in months. I cried so hard I couldn't stand. He made me tea, let me shower, sat with me for hours. I felt safe for the first time in a long time. But that night, at 3:14 a.m. exactly, my phone rang. I didn't want to answer. I didn't want to breathe. I didn't want to exist. but Ethan was asleep in the next room. I couldn't let whatever this was hurt him. So I picked up. I whispered, "Hello?" The line was silent for a moment. Then, my own voice whispered back, "I'm back in the trees." I dropped the phone and started screaming. Ethan came running, grabbing my shoulders, asking what happened. And that's when the scratching started. Soft, slow. Right outside the living room window, like fingernails on glass. We both froze. Neither of us moved for almost a whole minute. Then, 3 gentle knocks, just like story 1. Except this time, the voice came through the glass. "It's time to finish your walk." We moved the next morning, both of us. I quit my job, got therapy, changed my number, changed everything. But 2 weeks ago, I got a new phone. New number. Clean start. The first night I had it, at 3:14 a.m., I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. I didn't pick up. But the voicemail it left was only 5 seconds. And in those 5 seconds, you can hear me. Not current me. The me from that missing night. You can hear me whisper, "Why did you leave me out here?" I haven't slept since. I don't know what happened during those 9 hours. I don't know what I was walking with. I don't know what whispered to me. I don't know what I brought home. I don't know why it still knows my number. But I know this. Whatever was in those trees, whatever made me smile at that camera, whatever held my neck and whispered in my voice, it's not finished with me. And every night, every single night, around 3 a.m., I can still hear footsteps outside my window. Slow, pacing, waiting, just like I did that night. Walking, waiting, listening. I used to think that loneliness was just a feeling, something you could shake off, something you could fix by watching a movie or calling a friend. But loneliness can rot. It can hollow you out. It can make you vulnerable in ways you don't understand until something else, something hungry, notices. In 2022, I moved into a small apartment in Portland, Oregon after a rough breakup. I had nowhere else to go and the rent was cheap. Too cheap. So I took it. It was a 3rd-floor unit in an old building that smelled like aging wood and dust, trapped in heaters from the 80s. The walls were thin. The pipes groaned. The floorboards creaked like they were complaining every time I took a step. But the weirdest thing? My apartment didn't have a unit above it. The building had 4 floors, but the top floor only covered the east side. My unit was on the west side, under nothing but empty attic space. So on my first night, when I heard footsteps directly above my bedroom ceiling, I froze. Slow, dragging footsteps. Forward, stop. Backward, stop. I remember lying there and telling myself, it's an old building. Old buildings make sounds. But these footsteps weren't random. They were purposeful, weighted, measured. Someone was walking right over me, back and forth, for nearly an hour. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went downstairs to talk to the building manager, a tired-looking guy named Mark. He had the face of a man who'd been dealing with tenants for way too long. "Is someone living in the attic above me?" I asked. He frowned. "There's no attic above your unit." "I heard footsteps," I insisted. Mark shook his head. "Ma'am, there's nothing above you. It's just insulation and old rafters." I didn't believe him, but the way he said it, fast, dismissive, almost nervous, told me he didn't want me to ask more. When I pressed him again, he lowered his voice and said, "Look, Just ignore any sounds you hear up there." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer. That night, the footsteps returned. This time, they started earlier, around 10 p.m. Same pattern. Slow steps. Stop. Slow steps. Stop. But then, something terrifying happened. I heard someone kneel, right above my bed, the sound of weight shifting onto knees. Wood creaking. A faint exhale, like someone lowering themselves to press their ear to the floor, like they were listening to me. I covered my mouth and held my breath. The breathing above me stopped. Then, 3 slow taps, directly above my head. Tap, tap, tap. I couldn't move. After maybe a minute, the footsteps backed away slowly. Then silence. The silence was somehow worse. I should have moved out. I should have broken my lease. I should have called the police. But I didn't. Because I was lonely. Because part of me thought maybe I was imagining it. Because a small, pathetic part of me didn't want to be alone in that apartment at night. I hate admitting that. But it's the truth. Loneliness makes you forgive things you should run from. Loneliness makes whispers sound like comfort. Loneliness makes you let things in, without meaning to, without noticing. And something in that apartment wanted me lonely. On the 3rd morning, I found a note taped to my door. No envelope, no handwriting, just 3 words typed in all caps. Stop listening back. My heart dropped. I looked around the hallway. No one. Nothing. How did someone know I'd been listening to the noises above me? Why did they say it like a warning? I ripped the note off my door and locked myself inside, breathing hard. I didn't leave my apartment the rest of the day. At 2:17 a.m., a loud crash above my ceiling jolted me out of a light sleep. Not just footsteps, not tapping, a violent, heavy thud like someone fell or jumped from a height inside the attic. I shot upright in bed. My heart was pounding. Silence followed. Thick, suffocating silence. Then the footsteps started again, but this time, they were fast, erratic, pacing in frantic circles above me, over and over and over. The boards creaked under the pressure. More weight than a person should have. Then, scratching. Long, dragging scratches overhead, across the length of my ceiling, like nails or claws scraping wood. I pressed my hands to my ears, but the sounds drilled through anyway. Suddenly, everything stopped. Then something leaned down again right over my bed. I felt it, a heavy presence pressing down, like a large animal crouching on the rafters above me. I didn't breathe. I didn't dare. And then, a voice, a whisper, not from above the ceiling, but from my vent. A soft, raspy voice. "I know you're awake." My blood turned to ice. I couldn't move. I couldn't blink. The voice exhaled, a slow, shaky breath, and whispered again, "Don't look at the ceiling." That was the moment I grabbed my phone and ran out of the apartment barefoot. When I reached the hallway, trembling uncontrollably, I looked back at my door and froze. Because at the end of the hallway, near the stairwell, there was a pull-down attic door. I had never noticed it before. It wasn't above my unit. It wasn't connected to my apartment. It was in the hallway, and it was open. The wooden ladder hung down. Not just down. Fresh scratch marks covered the sides of the ladder. Deep ones. Long ones. As if something with claws had climbed up and down repeatedly. I stood there shaking so hard my teeth chattered. Something was living in the attic. Something fast. Something heavy. Something that knew my name. Something that whispered at me through vents. But worst of all, something that didn't live above my apartment. It lived over the hallway. but chose to walk over my ceiling. Why? Why me? What did it want? I backed away slowly. Then I heard it. A soft footstep on the ladder, then another. I couldn't see it. I didn't wait to. I ran out of the building and didn't stop until I was in my car, driving aimlessly through the city, sobbing so hard I couldn't see straight. Around 6 a.m., after hours of shaking, crying, and trying not to throw up, I went back to the building. Mark, the building manager, was standing outside smoking, looking exhausted. When he saw me, his face dropped. "You heard it, didn't you?" he whispered. I didn't answer. He rubbed his face with trembling hands. "There's no one living up there, but you're not the first tenant to complain." I felt sick. "How many?" He didn't look at me when he said, "5. "Where are they now?" I whispered. Mark flicked ash onto the ground. "They all moved out within a month? 2 left in the middle of the night?" I swallowed hard. "What did they hear?" He hesitated. Then, in a low voice, "They all said the same thing. Someone was pacing above their bed. Someone whispered at them through the vents. Someone told them not to look at the ceiling." I stared at him, horrified. He looked even worse. "One tenant, she said something else." My voice cracked. "What?" Mark's eyes were wet. "She said it followed her out when she left." I returned to my apartment only to grab my essentials: wallet, documents, laptop, a few clothes. I wasn't staying another night. My hands shook as I unlocked my door. Inside, the apartment was silent, calm, still, too still. I grabbed my suitcase and shoved my things inside quickly, but before I left, I made the mistake of glancing at the ceiling. There were footprints, small, dusty footprints, walking across the ceiling from one end to the other, human-shaped, but wrong. The toes were too long, the arches too curved, the heels too small, like something almost human, but not quite. I ran. I moved out that day, didn't break my lease, didn't ask for a refund, didn't care. For weeks, I stayed at hotels. Never the same one twice. But 2 months later, something happened that still keeps me awake. I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. On it, printed clean and perfect: "Stop looking at new ceilings." My heart dropped into my stomach, because I hadn't told anyone, not my friends, not my mother, not my co-workers, about the ceiling footprints. No one knew. No one except the thing that walked above me. I don't sleep well anymore. Every apartment I move into, I check the ceilings first, and sometimes, not always, but sometimes, late at night, I hear faint footsteps, not above me, not below me, but inside the walls, pacing, waiting, listening, just like before. And every morning, no matter where I live, I check my front door, and I always find a piece of paper on the floor, blank, completely blank, until I turn it over and see 3 words written in perfect type print: "I'm still above you."